What is it? How do you define the gay agenda?
Oh, the gay agenda. There's been this plan. Like, we usually go to meetings on Wednesday in black cloaks.
Okay.
Draw like a big star in the circle on the ground. We have like these cups of blood, drink it, pretty much, and we kind of like plan like world domination, like to make everyone gay and then like decrease the world population.
What if everything you've been hearing isn't the full story? Lil Nas X has gone unusually quiet, and now whispers are starting to spread. He's allegedly been forced out after claims he leaked secret recordings that are said to expose artists living double lives under names that could shake the whole industry if revealed. Is any of this true, or is there more to the story? Join us as we uncover the part of this story you probably didn't know.
Records are always going to be broken. I mean, like, this record's going to be broken one day.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully it's by me again, you know.
When people talk about artists who truly change the rules of the game, Lil Nas X always comes up. His journey didn't just happen overnight. It's a mix of smart moves, bold choices, and moments that got the whole world talking. With just one song, Old Town Road, his name was everywhere. At first, it didn't look like anything special. It was short, simple, and mixed country with rap in a way people weren't used to. But Lil Nas X understood something many artists didn't at the time: how powerful the internet could be. He pushed the song using memes, short videos, and trends, especially on TikTok. Slowly, it started catching on. Then suddenly, it was everywhere. What happened next was history. The song stayed at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 19 weeks, breaking a record that had stood for years. It became more than just a hit. It became a cultural moment. And just when people thought they had him figured out, he made an even bigger move. While Old Town Road was still #1, Lil Nas X said something that shocked fans.
You've given hints. What do you think you've revealed?
That I am gay.
In hip-hop, that kind of openness is still rare, especially at the top level. For many fans, it was surprising. For others, it was inspiring. Either way, it changed how people saw him. He wasn't just a viral artist anymore. He was someone willing to be honest, even when it came with risk. As his fame grew, so did his confidence. In 2021, he released his debut album, Montero, and it made it clear he wasn't planning to play it safe. The album included the song Montero, Call Me By Your Name, which quickly became one of the most talked about releases of the year. The music video was bold, creative, and controversial. It used religious imagery in a way that sparked strong reactions. Some people praised it as artistic and powerful. Others felt it crossed a line. Then came the Satan Shoes moment. Working with MSCHF, Lil Nas X helped release a limited number of customized sneakers. The idea that they contained a drop of human blood caused a huge reaction online. News outlets picked it up, social media exploded, and debates started everywhere. Love it or hate it, it kept his name in the spotlight. But beyond the headlines, there's a deeper story.
I think as I first moved with my dad, after my dad got custody of me and my brother when I was around 9 or 10, I believe that's when I became the most conscious, the most self-aware, and that started to grow more and more.
Before his fame, he was just Montero Lamar Hill, growing up in Georgia. His early life wasn't easy. After his parents separated, he moved between homes, spending time with his mother and later with his father. He grew up in environments where there were real challenges, including exposure to violence and hardship. From a young age, he knew he was different. He realized early on that he was gay, but he didn't feel safe expressing it. Watching how others were treated made him decide to hide that part of himself. Religion also played a role in shaping how he saw himself. For a long time, he believed his feelings might go away or that he needed to fight them. During his teenage years, he spent a lot of time online. He became deeply involved in internet culture, especially on platforms like Twitter. As a fan of Nicki Minaj, he joined her fan community and learned how online audiences react, what goes viral, and how to get attention. Those skills later became one of his biggest strengths. At one point, he tried to follow a more traditional path. He enrolled in college to study computer science, but it didn't take long for him to realize it wasn't what he wanted. So he made a risky decision. He dropped out and chose to focus fully on music. It was a big gamble, especially without any guarantees, but that risk ended up changing his life. After his breakout, he kept proving he could evolve. Songs like Industry Baby showed his confidence and star power, while more personal tracks like Sun Goes Down revealed his struggles and emotions. He wasn't just making catchy music, he was telling his story. What really sets Lil Nas X apart is how he understands attention. He knows how to start conversations, how to stay relevant, and how to control his image in a way that feels intentional. Some people see him as controversial. Others see him as brave. But one thing is clear, he knows exactly what he's doing. And in an industry where so many artists struggle to stand out, that ability has made all the difference.
You know, I would just like, pray and pray and pray, and
What were you praying for?
that it was,
It's hard to imagine now, but there was a time when Lil Nas X told himself he would never open up about his sexuality. Today, he stands confidently as one of the most visible and outspoken queer artists in music. But that confidence didn't just appear overnight. It came with real fear, tough conversations, and a big personal decision. He started small, opening up to the people closest to him. First, he told his sister and brother. Then, he had one of the most important conversations of his life, telling his father. At first, his dad didn't fully understand and even questioned whether outside influences were leading him down that path. But over time, that reaction changed. His father came around, accepted him, and stood by his side. That support meant everything.
Lil Nas X seemingly announces he's gay on World Pride Day.
On June 2019, right at the end of Pride Month, Lil Nas X decided to tell the world. Instead of making a long speech, he did it in his own creative way. After performing at a Pride event during the Glastonbury Festival, he pointed fans to his song C7 Osher You Like and told them to really listen to the lyrics. The message was there, clear and honest. He was coming out as gay. That moment took courage. He knew not everyone would accept it. And he was right. But he didn't back down. Instead, he leaned into who he was. In an interview in 2021, he explained that coming out felt bigger than just a personal choice. He saw it as something he needed to do, not just for himself, but for others watching. He understood that being open could help someone else feel less alone. As time went on, he continued to be honest about his identity. In 2023, he shared a message on social media saying he might be a little bisexual, showing that his journey with identity was still evolving. Later that same year, in a documentary about his life and career, he referred to himself as gay again, reminding people that identity isn't always fixed or simple. What stands out most is how real his journey has been. He didn't come out with all the answers. He didn't pretend to have everything figured out. He just chose to be honest, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it came with risks.
So let me ask you, what happens in there that we don't get to see?
I don't want them to exit out. I'm kidding.
Lately, a new wave of rumors has been circulating online involving Lil Nas X, and as usual, the internet has not been quiet about it. Some posts on social media claim that the rapper leaked private recordings or audio involving so-called down-low rappers. The idea sounds dramatic, almost like something out of a scandal documentary, which is exactly why it spread so fast. People see it, react quickly, and share it without stopping to ask one question: is this actually true? And that's where things start to fall apart. There is no evidence backing this claim at all. No verified reports, no credible news outlets, and no confirmed proof that Lil Nas X ever leaked recordings of other artists. What's circulating online appears to be built more on speculation, trolling, and exaggerated storytelling than anything grounded in fact. Lil Nas X is no stranger to online chaos. He has built a reputation for being bold, sarcastic, and very active on social media. Sometimes he plays into internet jokes, sometimes he responds with humor, and other times he simply ignores the noise. Because of that, people often blur the line between what he is actually involved in and what the internet creates around him. It's also worth remembering that he has dealt with leaks before, but in a completely different context. Back in 2022, some of his own unreleased music surfaced online without his permission. He addressed it himself on social media at the time, making it clear it was about his personal work, not anyone else's private material. That distinction matters. But online narratives don't always respect nuance. Once a rumor starts getting attention online, it can spread very fast, especially if a famous name is involved. Every share adds a bit more to it. Every comment fuels more guessing, and soon the original story can end up looking far bigger and more believable than it really was. So what does DL gay actually mean? And why would Lil Nas X even be said to be going after them?
For people to be able to look at it, because there are men watching this interview right now that are probably saying faggot this, faggot that, faggot this, but they're sucking dick on the weekend. And I'm sorry.
In hip-hop slang, the term DL stands for down low, and on the surface it sounds simple, but it carries more weight depending on the situation and who is using it. At its most basic level, DL just means keeping something private. If someone says, keep it on the DL, they're asking for discretion. Don't spread it around. Don't make it public. It's about silence, secrecy, and keeping things under the radar. But in hip-hop and broader Black American cultural conversations, the phrase has also developed a deeper and more sensitive meaning over time. In certain contexts, down low refers to men who publicly present themselves as hetero, but privately relationships with other men. This meaning became widely known in the late 90s and early 2000s, when media and cultural discussions started focusing on secrecy, identity, and hidden aspects within highly masculine environments. Hip-hop, especially in its earlier decades, has often been shaped by strong expectations of masculinity. Artists were expected to appear tough, confident, emotionally controlled, and dominant. That image wasn't just part of the music, it became part of the culture around it. Fans, labels, and even fellow artists sometimes reinforced the idea that a rapper had to look and act a certain way to be taken seriously. Because of that, anything that challenged those expectations, whether it was emotional vulnerability, gender nonconformity, or non-hetero identity, was often treated with suspicion or stigma. That pressure created an environment where some people felt they had to separate their public identity from their private life. So instead of living openly, they kept parts of themselves hidden. That's where on the DL started to represent more than just secrecy in general. It became tied to the idea of living a double life under social pressure.
You know, what's worse, hip hop wearing skirts or hip hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood that, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is, what's worse, hip hop wearing skirts or hip hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood that, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is your. So I hear what Jamar is saying.
Like it, down low is tied to secrecy in relationships, reinforcing the idea that certain things must stay hidden. Over time, though, the phrase also became part of wider discussions about identity and masculinity in hip-hop. It opened up conversations about why secrecy exists in the first place, and what kind of pressure leads people to feel like they can't be fully open about who they are. At the center of it all is the idea of authenticity. Hip-hop culture has always placed huge value on being real. But the problem is that real has often been defined in narrow ways. If someone steps outside those expectations, whether in appearance, behavior, or identity, they can be unfairly questioned or dismissed. That's where tension builds. Because artists are expected to be authentic, but only within certain boundaries. Anything outside those boundaries can be seen as not fitting the image, even if it is completely real to the person living it. In recent years, things have started to shift. A new generation of artists has pushed against older ideas of masculinity. Some have embraced fashion choices that break stereotypes, and others have spoken more openly about identity and mental health. This has slowly expanded what acceptable expression looks like in hip-hop. Even now, the conversation is far from over. There's more openness than there used to be, but discussions about masculinity and being real in rap culture still come up often, especially online where opinions spread fast and loudly. And with the amount of backlash people sometimes face, it's easy to understand why some might choose to keep certain parts of their lives private.
You think we'll ever have a gay rap artist?
Maybe one day, but that's like, why does that shit matter?
I know.
Like, if he wanna dudes or whatever, why does that matter? Like, why do we care?
I've never
like
figured that out.
That's so fucking crazy, right?
Throughout music history, artists who openly express have often faced backlash, sometimes mild criticism, other times full-on public controversy that threatened their careers. While the details vary from case to case, the pattern is surprisingly consistent. When an artist steps outside what audiences expect, especially around sexuality, the reaction can be intense and polarizing. George Michael was arrested in Beverly Hills during a sting operation involving a public restroom incident. What followed wasn't just legal trouble, it became a media storm that forced him to publicly acknowledge his sexuality. Instead of retreating, he responded through music, releasing Outside, a track that turned the scandal into satire and directly challenged the public scrutiny he was under. It was his way of reclaiming control of the narrative. Then there's Madonna in the early 90s. With her book and erotica album, she pushed the expression into mainstream pop culture in a way that shocked a very conservative audience at the time. Religious groups called for boycotts. Critics accused her of going too far, and she became a cultural lightning rod. But at the same time, she forced a conversation about freedom in mainstream music that hadn't really existed before at that level. Back in the 80s, Frankie Goes to Hollywood also ran into censorship battles. Their song Relax was famously banned by the BBC after being labeled obscene, largely because of its undertones, which many associated with gay culture. The ban only made the song more popular, but it also highlighted how quickly queer-coded content could trigger institutional pushback.
But once again, Hart interrupted.
I'm grown up to hate this shit. I'm not supposed to
Grown up to
ever
hate
like
what?
this.
Hate what? Hate what?
Homosexuality, gay
Why?
people. Come on now.
More recently, Lil Nas X has become one of the clearest modern examples of both massive success and heavy backlash. After coming out publicly, his Montero, Call Me By Your Name, video sparked global debate. The visuals, filled with religious symbolism and queer themes, led to intense criticism from some viewers, while others praised it as bold and artistic. What stood out was how divided the reaction was, showing that even in a more open era, queer expression in mainstream pop can still be highly controversial. In hip-hop specifically, the tension has often been even sharper because of the genre's long history with hypermasculinity and authenticity culture. Openly gay rappers or queer artists have often described being placed under a microscope, where their identity becomes part of the conversation in a way that straight artists don't experience. Instead of being seen only as musicians, they're often labeled first by their sexuality, which can overshadow the actual work they produce. That kind of framing creates an uneven playing field, where every lyric, outfit, or performance is interpreted through identity rather than artistry. The experience of backlash in music doesn't just happen in isolated moments. For artists like Lil Nas X, it is played out as a long, ongoing tension between success, criticism, and personal identity.
There's still a lot to be done, of course, but I do believe it's helping.
Over the years, he has spoken openly about how the industry hasn't always been welcoming, especially when it comes to his sexuality and the kind of creative risks he takes. In interviews, he's described feeling resistance behind the scenes, like there were people who weren't fully comfortable with the direction he was taking. Even when his work was successful, that didn't always mean full acceptance. One early example of pushback came from outside hip-hop entirely, when his breakout hit Old Town Road was removed from the country music charts. The decision sparked huge debate about what counts as country music and who gets to decide that. For him, it was a strange introduction to fame because even his biggest success came with controversy attached to it. As he moved deeper into hip-hop and pop, the conversation shifted, but the pressure didn't go away. He has often talked about how openly gay artists are still treated differently in rap culture, where traditional ideas of masculinity can shape how people are received. Instead of just being judged on music, identity can become part of the criticism. That tension became even more visible with his Montero era. Songs like Industry Baby were widely seen as him responding directly to critics, not just with words, but with confidence. The message was clear. He wasn't backing down, and he wasn't trying to fit into anyone's expectations anymore. The track felt like both a victory lap and a statement of survival in an industry that had questioned him.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to apologize, but I wanted to explain. I'm not the first person to dress up as Jesus. I'm not the first rapper. I'm not the first artist, and I won't be the last. Given my history with, the Call Me By Your Name video, anything that I do related to religion can be seen as mockery.
Religious backlash also became part of his story. Some of his music videos and performances drew strong reactions from conservative groups who criticized his use of religious imagery. For him, this added another layer of pressure because it wasn't just about music anymore, it became about symbolism, interpretation, and public debate over his identity. Across music, reactions to LGBTQ+ backlash have always brought out strong emotions from fans. And over time, those reactions have started to shape the conversation just as much as the artists themselves. In the early days, when queer artists or LGBTQ+ themes showed up in mainstream music, fan reactions were often split right down the middle. Some people were supportive, but a large number of fans reacted with confusion, anger, or rejection. A lot of that came from how new it felt in popular music spaces, especially in genres like hip-hop, country, and rock, where traditional ideas of masculinity and identity were deeply rooted. But things didn't stay that way. As more artists began speaking openly about who they are, fans started reacting in a more visible and powerful way, especially through social media. Instead of just quietly accepting or rejecting something, fans could now instantly share opinions, defend artists, or push back against criticism. When Frank Ocean opened up about his experiences, it marked a real turning point in music culture. For many people in the industry, it wasn't just about one artist sharing something personal. It was about how the entire space reacted. And surprisingly to some, a large part of the response was supportive. It showed that audiences were starting to value honesty and vulnerability more than silence or image control.
Give someone a hug and it's like, bro, we ain't on that. I'm like, it's so sad how deeply rooted this is. Like, you can't even show affection to someone that you care about because you think someone else is gonna think that you're gay, and that's why you probably...
Around the same time, Tyler, the creator, was going through his own shift in public perception. Early in his career, he was surrounded by controversy and criticism, with many people focusing more on his image and past lyrics than his actual talent. But over the years, his music evolved, his sound matured, and so did the way people saw him. What was once controversial slowly turned into respect. Today, he is widely recognized not just as a rapper, but as a creative artist with a unique vision. What makes this even more interesting is how newer artists are entering the industry today. Many of them are coming in with more confidence to be open from the beginning. They don't always feel the need to hide parts of who they are, and that is gradually changing the culture around them. In some corners of the internet and within certain music styles, there is more space for fluid identity, self-expression, and honesty than there used to be. But even with all these changes, the story is not simple or one-directional. Progress doesn't move in a straight line. There are moments where acceptance feels real and strong, where artists are celebrated for being themselves. Then, there are other moments where backlash, misunderstanding, or debate quickly follows. Old ideas don't disappear overnight, and they still show up in conversations around music and identity. What stands out most is that sexuality in music is rarely just private. Once an artist becomes public, their identity often becomes part of the wider conversation, whether they plan for it or not. It gets discussed, analyzed, and sometimes even argued over by fans, critics, and the media. In many ways, it becomes part of their public story, shaping how they are seen just as much as their music does.
It was something that I should have been done, but I was not in a position where I had to worry about like family and friends, like how they would react, I guess. But it's like, you know, in the past year, like I'm in a new level, so it's like it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Around the same time, Tyler, the creator, was going through his own shift in public perception. Early in his career, he was surrounded by controversy and criticism, with many people focusing more on his image and past lyrics than his actual talent. But over the years, his music evolved, his sound matured, and so did the way people saw him. What was once controversial slowly turned into respect. Today, he is widely recognized not just as a rapper, but as a creative artist with a unique vision. Younger artists are also entering the industry with more openness from the start, which slowly changes expectations. In some spaces, especially online and in certain subgenres, there's more room for fluid identity and expression than there used to be. Still, it's not a straight line forward. There are moments of acceptance, but also moments of backlash, misunderstanding, and debate that show the conversation is still evolving. What's clear in music has never been just a personal matter for artists. It often becomes part of the public story, whether they want it or not.
I was trying to be like Captain Save-A-Ho for the world, you know what I mean? And I can't do that. I can't do that all the time.
Online, the conversation around Lil Nas X has started to split into two very different directions, and that's where things get messy. On one side, rumors are claiming he was somehow blacklisted or quietly pushed out of the music industry. Some of these posts even try to connect that idea to earlier internet claims about leaked recordings and hidden information. The logic people build online can get extreme very quickly, especially when there's no official explanation to slow the story down. But here's the important part that often gets lost in the noise. There is no verified evidence that Lil Nas X was ever involved in leaking private recordings of other artists. And there is no confirmed proof that he has been permanently blacklisted from the industry. Those ideas mostly live in social media speculation, not in any reliable reporting. What is real is that his career, like many public figures, has had visible ups and downs, along with periods where he stepped back from the spotlight. In recent times, he has spent stretches of time away from public attention. And during those gaps, the internet tends to fill in the silence with theories, assumptions, and sometimes completely invented stories. That's usually when narratives about industry drama or secret consequences start to spread, even without anything concrete behind them. What's also true more generally is that Lil Nas X has been open about the pressures that come with fame, the attention, the criticism, and the constant online scrutiny can build up quickly. Like many young artists who rise fast, there are moments where stepping back becomes less of a choice for attention and more of a need for personal balance. But beyond that, the more dramatic claims being attached to his name don't hold up when you look for real confirmation. No official statements support the idea of a hidden industry punishment, and no credible sources back up the more extreme allegations circulating online. What remains consistent is this pattern. Silence from the artist leads to speculation. Speculation turns into stories, and stories eventually get shared as if they are facts. And that's where the suspense really comes in. Because when someone disappears from the spotlight, people don't always wait for answers. They start writing their own.